How to outsmart a master manipulator using their own trap, Machiavelli. There is a moment every person eventually faces. You are sitting across from someone who smiles while they lie, who compliments you while they undermine you, who wounds you so quietly that you don't even notice the blade until you are already bleeding. This is the master manipulator. They do not announce themselves. They do not wear a sign. They study you. They map your weaknesses, and they strike when you are least prepared. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this kind of person better than almost anyone in history. He did not write The Prince to teach cruelty for its own sake. He wrote it to expose the machinery of power so that those who read it carefully would never again be defenseless against it. Today, we are going to walk through 10 Machiavellian principles that will teach you not just to recognize a manipulator, but to turn their own traps back on them. This is not about becoming cruel. This is about becoming unbreakable, unreadable, and untouchable by the games others play. If this is the kind of wisdom you have been searching for, do one thing before we continue. Subscribe to this channel right now. Every week we bring you the sharpest, most practical lessons from history's greatest strategists, philosophers, and thinkers, translated into tools you can use in your actual life. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and let's begin. Principle 1. Never reveal your full hand. A manipulator's greatest weapon is information. They watch you. They listen to you. They collect the small details you drop without thinking, and they store them for later use. Every fear you confess, every insecurity you joke about, every ambition you reveal becomes a lever they can pull when it benefits them. Machiavelli understood that the prince who tells his enemies everything hands them the blueprint of his own downfall. The first rule of outsmarting a manipulator is to stop handing them blueprints. This does not mean becoming cold or secretive with everyone in your life. It means becoming deliberate about what you share and with whom. A manipulator often disguises their probing as intimacy. They ask deep questions early. They seem to care deeply about your struggles. But notice the pattern. Do they ask, listen, and then use what they learn against you later, in arguments, in comparisons, in subtle jabs? If so, you are not building trust with this person. You are being mined for weaknesses. The counter strategy is simple but requires discipline. Share your struggles with people who have earned years of trust, not days. Speak in generalities with those whose intentions are still unclear. Let your true plans, your true fears, and your true ambitions remain known only to you until action has already begun. Machiavelli wrote that fortune favors those who conceal their intentions until the moment of execution, because surprise is a form of power. When a manipulator does not know what you are truly thinking, they cannot design a trap around it. You become unpredictable, and unpredictability is armor. Principle 2. Study them before they finish studying you. Manipulators build their power by understanding people faster than people understand them. They read your body language, your reactions, your patterns of speech, and they use this data to construct a personalized strategy of control. Machiavelli's entire philosophy rests on the idea that power belongs to those who understand human nature clearly and use that understanding with precision. If a manipulator is studying you, the answer is not to hide from observation. The answer is to study them back, more carefully, more patiently, and more accurately than they are studying you. Begin paying close attention to their patterns. Notice what they say when they want something from you versus when they don't. Notice how their tone shifts around people who have power over them compared to people who don't. Manipulators often reveal their true character in how they treat those who cannot benefit them, the waiter, the assistant, the person with nothing to offer. This is where the mask slips. Track their inconsistencies. A manipulator will often say one thing to one person and something contradictory to another, assuming the two will never compare notes. Quietly note these contradictions without confronting them immediately. Machiavelli advised princes to gather intelligence before making any move, because knowledge of the opponent's weaknesses is the foundation of any successful counter-strategy. The moment you understand a manipulator's patterns better than they understand yours, the balance of power has already begun shifting in your favor, even if they don't realize it yet. Principle 3. Let them underestimate you. There is enormous strategic value in being underestimated. Machiavelli observed that those in power often fall because they assume their rivals are weaker or less capable than they truly are. A manipulator thrives on this same assumption. They choose targets they believe are naive, emotional, or easily controlled. If you allow them to believe this about you, even when it is not true, you gain a significant advantage. They will not prepare adequately for your resistance. This does not mean pretending to be foolish or weak in a way that invites abuse. It means resisting the urge to prove your intelligence, your awareness, or your strength prematurely. Many people, upon sensing manipulation, immediately confront the manipulator and display exactly how much they have figured out. This is a mistake. The moment a manipulator realizes you see through them, they simply adjust their tactics and become more careful, more subtle, and harder to catch. Instead, allow them to believe their strategy is working. Respond calmly, agreeably, even naively, while quietly building your understanding of their intentions and gathering the leverage you will eventually need. Machiavelli's prince does not announce his suspicions to his rivals. He allows them to reveal themselves fully, because a threat that believes it is undetected will always overextend itself eventually. When a manipulator overextends, believing you are unaware, that is when their pattern becomes undeniable, and that is when you strike with clarity instead of emotion. Subscribe reminder. Before we continue into the next set of principles, I want to pause and ask you directly. If this video is giving you real tools you can use, take 5 seconds and subscribe to this channel. We release content like this regularly, breaking down Stoic discipline, Machiavellian strategy, Jungian psychology, and the timeless wisdom of history's sharpest minds. Subscribing helps this channel grow and helps us keep making videos exactly like this one for you. Now, let's continue. Principle 4. Turn their flattery into your intelligence. Flattery is one of the manipulator's oldest and most effective tools. It lowers your guard, it makes you feel seen and valued, and it creates a false sense of alliance. Machiavelli warned princes repeatedly about the danger of flatterers, because a court full of people telling you what you want to hear blinds you to the truth of your situation. But here is the reversal. Flattery, when recognized for what it is, becomes a source of information rather than a source of vulnerability. When someone showers you with excessive praise, particularly praise that arrives suspiciously close to a request or a favor, pay close attention to what they are buttering you up for. Manipulators rarely flatter without purpose. The compliment is the setup. The favor, the request, the concession they want from you is the payoff. If you can train yourself to notice this pattern, flattery stops working on you and instead becomes an early warning system. The counter move is elegant. Accept the flattery graciously, without letting it inflate your ego or cloud your judgment, and then wait to see what follows. When the request comes, you will already know its true weight, because you saw the manipulation coming before it arrived. Machiavelli himself advised that a wise prince keeps advisors around him who will tell him the truth, precisely because he understands how dangerous it is to be surrounded by people who only tell him what flatters him. You must become your own wise advisor, capable of hearing praise without losing your clarity about the person offering it. Principle 5. Use silence as a weapon. Manipulators are often uncomfortable with silence. They rely on conversation, on reaction, on your words to give them material to work with. When you refuse to fill silence with unnecessary explanation, defense, or emotional reaction, you deny them the raw material they need to manipulate you further. Machiavelli understood that restraint, patience, and the ability to withhold reaction were signs of a ruler in control of himself, and a ruler in control of himself cannot easily be controlled by others. Consider what happens when a manipulator provokes you. They often say something designed to produce an emotional reaction, an accusation, a passive-aggressive comment, a subtle insult disguised as a joke. The average person responds immediately, defending themselves, explaining themselves, or reacting emotionally. This immediate reaction is exactly what the manipulator wants, because it gives them information about what wounds you and confirms that their tactic worked. Instead, practice the discipline of the pause. When provoked, say nothing for a moment longer than feels comfortable. Let the silence stretch. Watch how the manipulator reacts to your lack of reaction. Often, they will fill the silence themselves, revealing more of their intention than they meant to. Machiavelli's princes were masters of composure, understanding that emotional transparency was a liability in any negotiation or conflict. Silence is not weakness. Silence is the refusal to hand someone the exact reaction they were hunting for, and it is one of the most disorienting tools you can use against someone who depends on your predictability. Principle 6. Make alliances before you need them. A manipulator's power often depends on isolating their target. They work to separate you from friends, family, and allies who might see through their tactics or offer you support against them. This is why many manipulative relationships, whether romantic, familial, or professional, involve a slow erosion of your other connections. Machiavelli understood deeply that a prince who stood alone was vulnerable, while a prince with strong alliances was difficult to attack directly. The counter-strategy here is proactive rather than reactive. Build and maintain strong relationships with people who know you well, who have your history, and who would notice if your behavior or circumstances changed suspiciously. These are the people who will ask questions when a manipulator tries to isolate you, who will notice when you become quieter, more anxious, or more controlled than usual. A manipulator finds it far harder to operate when their target has a visible network of people paying attention. This also means being cautious about manipulators who try to speed up intimacy or dependency, who position themselves as your only true understanding friend, your only real support, your only source of validation. Machiavelli advised princes to distribute trust carefully among multiple advisors rather than depending entirely on one figure, because over-reliance on a single relationship creates a single point of failure. Keep your circle wide, keep your loyalties diversified, and you remove the manipulator's ability to isolate you into a position of total dependency. Principle 7. Let actions reveal what words conceal. Manipulators are often extraordinarily skilled with words. They apologize beautifully. They explain away red flags with plausible, even moving, justifications. They make promises that sound sincere in the moment. Machiavelli's most famous insight on this subject was that people judge rulers by appearances and by outcomes far more than by intentions, because most people lack the discernment to see beyond the surface of words. A manipulator exploits this exact tendency in the people around them. The defense against this is to stop weighing words as evidence and start weighing patterns of action instead. When someone repeatedly says one thing and does another, the words become noise. What matters is the pattern that actually plays out over time. Does this person apologize and then repeat the same harmful behavior within weeks? Does this person promise change and then subtly return to old patterns once your guard is down? These patterns tell you everything you need to know, regardless of how sincere the words sounded in the moment. Train yourself to keep a mental ledger, or even a literal one, of promises made versus promises kept. This removes the emotional fog that eloquent manipulators create and replaces it with clear, observable evidence. Machiavelli's prince did not rule through sentiment, he ruled through observation of what actually worked and what actually happened. You must adopt this same clarity. A manipulator can control the story they tell you, but they cannot fully control the pattern of their own repeated behavior, and it is in that pattern where the truth always eventually surfaces. Principle 8. Never let them see you bleed. One of the most dangerous things you can do around a manipulator is show them exactly how much they have hurt you. Machiavelli observed that visible weakness invites further aggression, because those seeking power are drawn instinctively to vulnerability the way predators are drawn to injury. A manipulator who sees that a particular comment, tactic, or behavior wounds you deeply will often return to that same wound repeatedly, because they have learned it is effective. This does not mean suppressing your emotions entirely or pretending pain does not exist. It means choosing carefully where and with whom you process that pain. Process your wounds with trusted friends, therapists, or in private reflection, but do not hand the person causing the wound the satisfaction of watching it unfold in real time. When you visibly crumble in front of a manipulator, you are giving them confirmation that their strategy works, and you are training them to repeat it. Instead, practice composure as an act of discipline. Even when a comment lands and stings, keep your expression measured and your response calm. This is not dishonesty, it is strategic self-protection. Machiavelli's prince understood that appearing unshaken, even during genuine internal turmoil, preserved authority and discouraged further attacks. Over time, as a manipulator realizes their usual tactics no longer produce the visible reaction they crave, many of them lose interest and redirect their energy toward easier, more reactive targets. Your composure becomes both your shield and your quiet victory. Subscribe reminder. We are past the halfway point of these principles, and I want to take a moment to genuinely thank you for watching this far. If this content is resonating with you, the single best way to support this channel is to subscribe. It costs you nothing, it takes 2 seconds, and it directly helps us keep producing deep, practical breakdowns of Machiavelli, Stoicism, and the psychology of power for you every single week. Hit subscribe now, and let's move into the final principles. Principle 9. Force them into the open. Manipulators depend heavily on ambiguity. They avoid direct statements. They speak in implications. They leave themselves plausible deniability so that when confronted, they can always claim you misunderstood their intentions. This ambiguity is a deliberate strategy, because it allows them to manipulate while maintaining the appearance of innocence. Machiavelli understood that ambiguity in politics was often a tool used by those unwilling to commit fully to a position until they saw which way the wind was blowing. The counter-strategy is to force clarity through calm, direct questions that eliminate the space for ambiguity. Instead of reacting emotionally to a vague, unsettling comment, ask a direct question that requires a direct answer. What exactly do you mean by that? Are you saying you want me to do this, or not? This forces the manipulator to either commit clearly to their position, which exposes their true intention, or backtrack awkwardly, which reveals the manipulation itself. This tactic works because manipulators rely on your willingness to fill in the blanks yourself, often in a way that is more generous or forgiving than what they actually meant. When you refuse to fill in those blanks and instead demand specificity, you remove their favorite tool. Machiavelli advised that a prince should force his rivals and allies alike into clear positions whenever possible, because clarity from others always benefits the party who is calm enough to use it. Practice this in low-stakes conversations first, and you will find it becomes a natural, powerful habit that manipulators struggle to work around. Principle 10. Exit without announcing the exit. The final and perhaps most important principle involves how you eventually remove a manipulator's influence from your life. Many people, upon realizing they are dealing with a manipulator, make the mistake of announcing their departure loudly, explaining every grievance, listing every manipulation tactic they've identified, hoping for some kind of acknowledgement or apology. This almost never works, and worse, it gives the manipulator a final opportunity to twist the narrative, guilt you, or draw you back in with promises of change. Machiavelli understood that the most dangerous moment in any political transition is the period of visible weakness during withdrawal. A prince retreating loudly, announcing his departure and his reasoning in detail, invites attack during his most vulnerable moment. The wiser strategy is a quiet, deliberate withdrawal, one that removes your resources, your attention, and your availability gradually and without drama, until the manipulator finds themselves with less and less access to you. This might look like slowly reducing contact rather than issuing a dramatic final confrontation. It might mean quietly building your independence, financial, emotional, and social, before making any final move. It might mean simply becoming less available, less reactive, and less present until the relationship naturally fades rather than explodes. Machiavelli's prince did not explain his strategy to his enemies as he executed it. He simply executed it, and let the results speak afterward. When you exit a manipulator's orbit this way, you deny them the dramatic confrontation they could use against you, and you protect your own peace in the process. Bringing it all together, what we have walked through today are not tactics for becoming cruel, deceptive, or manipulative yourself. They are tactics for becoming aware, composed, and strategically intelligent in a world where not everyone operates with good intentions. Machiavelli's wisdom has survived 5 centuries not because it teaches people to be villains, but because it teaches people to see clearly, to understand power honestly, and to protect themselves from those who would exploit their kindness or their naivety. The master manipulator relies on one thing above all else: your predictability, your transparency, and your emotional reactivity. Every principle we discussed today removes one piece of that reliance. When you stop revealing your full hand, when you study them as closely as they study you, when you let them underestimate you, when you turn their flattery into intelligence, when you master silence, when you build alliances before you need them, when you judge actions over words, when you refuse to show them your wounds, when you force ambiguity into clarity, and when you exit quietly rather than dramatically, you become someone who cannot be easily played. You become the one holding the map instead of the one lost inside someone else's trap. This is the essence of Machiavellian wisdom applied not to conquest of nations, but to the conquest of your own peace, your own boundaries, and your own life. The manipulators around you, whether in your family, your workplace, or your relationships, thrive in a world of unaware, reactive people. You no longer have to be one of them. Closing. If this video gave you something real, something you can actually use the next time you find yourself facing someone who is playing games with your trust, do not scroll away without subscribing to this channel. We publish content just like this every single week, breaking down the deepest lessons from Stoicism, Machiavelli, Jungian psychology, and the great minds of history, and turning them into tools you can use in your actual daily life. Subscribing costs you nothing, but it helps this channel keep growing, and it ensures you never miss the next lesson that could change how you navigate the world.